Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Fullest podcast. I'm your host, Nikki Bostwick, and today's guest is Tory Waxman, who's the Chief Veterinary Officer at Sundays Food for Dogs. Hi.
Hi, it's great to be here.
It's so wonderful to meet you. I love your dog food so much. So I'm just really excited to learn more about you and how you guys got started and just learn more about just the process as well. It's super hard to find good dog food. We're really picky as well. We want the best for our dog. She's like, I now have a toddler and I'm actually pregnant, but
Congratulations.
our dog is definitely like our firstborn. And so, it's just like, I just think that it's so important. You just want them to live as long as possible. And as we know, food is so important. So I'm really excited to see how you got started. So I'm curious. So you started this company with your husband, right?
Yes.
And you guys just started in 2018, 2019?
Yes, about 2018 is when we kind of started playing with the idea. At first, it just kind of started as a little, no pun intended, pet project between the two of us, where I was a practicing veterinarian on the Upper East Side of New York, and he was a software engineer doing a different startup. And one of our dogs got sick, and he started asking me a bunch of questions. Why do we feed this certain dog food? Do you think there's something better out there? And so we kind of went down the rabbit hole of trying to figure out, between my high expectations as a veterinarian and then, him as a very picky and discerning consumer, could we find something that we felt was really the best dog food? And after a long time, we realized either it was just kind of your traditional kibble, which, from these big traditional companies, which was fine in a way, but or it was something super inconvenient and messy, and there was nothing in the middle. So there was nothing that we felt great about feeding our dogs. And we joke that we would literally do anything for our dogs.
Yeah.
But preparing their food for 20 minutes a day, or dealing with fresh food taking up our entire fridge, which, as you know, in New York City was not that big of a fridge anyway.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how we started. And we said, hey, could we make something that is as easy as kibble, but is fresher, comes from whole ingredients, things like that. And so that's kind of where we started down the rabbit hole, more just as like a little project between the two of us. We're both very, invested in our dogs and also kind of obsessive consumers. So it was like, just a little thing between the two of us. And then as we started talking more and more, we realized there was really nothing out there that met the goals that we wanted as pet parents and also what I wanted as a veterinarian. And that's how the idea for Sundays came about.
Before Sundays, were you telling parents to do any specific diet for their dog?
I often mostly recommended kibble from a lot of the big traditional dog food companies, which I think there is a lot of controversy in that because a lot of people feel that a lot of vets are influenced by these big companies. The thing is, the big companies do have they do most of the research because they have a lot of the money, for good or for bad, and they have good quality control. And so a part of me also feels like that's almost better than feeding something from a company that who knows what their quality control is, and who knows, they can claim they're better, but are they really better? And I think that's also one of the reasons, Sundays came to be, is because as a veterinarian, my clientele, especially when I was working on the Upper East Side, they say, hey, I want to feed my dog something better. And they'd come in with these new foods that would claim to be better. But when I looked into it, they really were just marketing companies that happened to make dog food. And I didn't feel like I could recommend any of these companies because I really didn't think they were any better than the traditional dog food companies that at least had veterinarians on staff. They had the research background. So even though I didn't think they made the best food, at least they had other things going for them. And so that's why, I really struggled as a pet parent and as a veterinarian.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah. So we did the whole raw thing with my dog, and she's a Siberian Husky. So it felt like, it's like her ancestral, it just makes sense with her, the type of dog she is. But then she just slowly started to, and we've switched her food so many times because she gets over it. And then, and it's so funny, but raw food just stopped working for her basically. And then I found this woman at the farmer's market who I absolutely love, but it's so funny how we started using Sundays, because what happened was I started using her, and I loved that she was super into like the best quality and only getting it from the best sources. But my husband was convinced that she was poisoning our dog because literally like she got sick right after, but we didn't, we thought we were doing the best thing for her. And then finally, like we got connected, I started using Sundays and it was just so much better. Like our life was just so much easier. It was, like you said, way less messy and actually something that she wanted. And she stopped immediately having like a reaction. So it's really interesting, but it's like you said, it's so important to have that well-rounded, like balanced diet. And that's for humans and dogs. So it makes sense.
Well, and also think about it, when we feed our dogs, they might get a few treats here and there, but what we feed them, that's where they get all of their nutrition, all their vitamins, all their minerals. I mean, we eat a well-rounded diet. And so, that's why it's so important to feed a high quality diet as the main portion of their food, because that's really where they're getting all of their nutrients from. And that's why it's so important for it to be complete and balanced. And, the other thing is a lot of dog foods will claim to be all natural, but then in tiny print, there'll be an asterisk that says with added vitamins and minerals. So, as a veterinarian, it really bothered me. It was almost felt like false marketing. And so when we say that Sundays is all natural, we mean that. There's no asterisks. All of our vitamins and minerals come from natural sources. Just like it's healthier to eat a wide variety of fruits and vegetables than to take a daily multivitamin. I believe that that's a lot healthier. That's how you get your vitamins and minerals. I felt strongly about that. Between wanting to give the highest quality sources of vitamins and minerals and also feel like we were being honest with our consumers, just like I always want to be honest with my clients, was really important to me.
Yeah.
And so, I didn't want to have disclaimers or asterisks. I wanted to just say, nonstop.
Yeah. So, okay, you guys came up with this amazing dog food. You have a specific method to like drying it, right?
Mm-hmm. So that's something that it took a long time to develop because it's actually a very ancient technique, air drying. It's used to dry fruits and meats and different things to preserve them. I felt really strongly about not doing a raw diet. First of all, there's a risk to the animal, but honestly, a bigger concern for me is the risk to humans. As veterinarians, we're also concerned about public health and raw diets. Animals that are fed raw diets, not only is there the risk with handling the food, they also found that in some studies that these dogs had salmonella shed from their mouth and on their feet and other places. And if you think about it, our dogs are in our beds, or at least mine are. And I think a lot of our, I think most of the dogs that eat Sundays would like to say that, they sleep in their owner's beds, and I'm sure they do. And so because of that, I don't feel comfortable from, as a veterinarian recommending a raw diet from human and also animal health. And so that's why, our food has a kill step. We cook our food for a low temperature for a long amount of time, but it does have a kill step. It's made in a USDA human food kitchen. And so we actually traveled all over the world, literally, to kind of dial in our formula and how we're going to make it. We even visited a production facility in New Zealand. We took our 4-month-old daughter to New Zealand.
Oh my God.
Yes. So I know we always joke that she did more traveling in her first year of life that who knows when she'll ever travel again.
Oh my gosh. I know that's actually the same with my son. And I'm so glad we did it because as you know, it's like so much easier at that age. Even though it's like hard in the process, you're like, oh my God, am I crazy to travel with this 4-month-old baby, but then it's like so nice. Yeah.
Well, it's funny too, because she was sleeping horribly at the time. We were going through the 4-month sleep regression. So I asked my pediatrician if I was crazy and I was totally going to mess her up. And she was like, well, she's not sleeping well anyway, then you might as well go. I was like, you're right. So sorry, unrelated to dog food. But yes, that was a fun thing. And, we learned a lot there. We decided, the people we met with there, it wasn't ideal for us in terms of partnering. And it's funny, we looked literally all over the world to find out where we wanted to make our food. And then Michael's actually from Ohio, and we ended up partnering with a Jerky Kitchen here in Ohio. And so we were living in New York at the time. And then we, really didn't mean it to be, but it ended up being this great opportunity where we could move home. His parents are here, which is really nice, especially with the pandemic and everything with, and then having our production in terms of our food production. And then also we make a lot of our packaging here in Ohio. So it became this kind of little local thing, even though we really didn't intend it at the beginning. It's a nice little bonus.
Do you have employees that still kind of, or do they like work all over? Or is like Ohio kind of your main spot?
So this is where we do most production. So food, packaging, things like that. We have a couple of customer service people who are remote, marketing people that are remote. When we first started working with different marketing agents and PR firms, we really kind of heavily thought we would be doing a lot of travel and events in New York and LA, but obviously that all changed. We initially were going to launch in February or March, which was not great timing of this year.
Yeah.
So it got put, and then it kind of became one of those things. It's like, oh, well, things are really bad now, but like, we'll see about next month. And then it was like, okay, we just need to publicly launch. So we started selling food in January to basically beta testers and things like that. But we really didn't publicly launch until August. And it was one of those things where we were kind of waiting. And then we were like, you know what? There's no kind of near-term end in sight. We just need to launch. So then we decided to just do basically a digital launch, which has gone really well, but definitely not what we envisioned at first. We had all these ideas for in-person dog events and everything. And at first we were concerned, but honestly, it's gone really well. And it's, people are home with their dogs, and they're, we all know how important our dogs are, but I think we're realizing how much more important they are to us than we could have ever imagined, especially being stuck at home.
I know. I totally agree with you. And like, actually, what a great time to start, a dog delivery company. I mean, a dog food delivery business when people don't want to go. I mean, you go to the grocery store, but there's like no good dog food there, so it's like kind of perfect. This episode is sponsored by Sundays. Sundays was created when a veterinarian and an engineer who were obsessed with finding the perfect food for their own dogs decided to just make it themselves. Their goal? An easy alternative to kibble that's healthier and tastier, but doesn't require you to whip out the pots and pans. For 30% off your Sundays order, use code THEFULLEST at checkout.
Yes. So as I said, at first, when the COVID started happening and we had to push our launch, it made us really nervous. But at the end of the day, it actually ended up being, somewhat of a blessing in disguise, in the sense that, people were realizing, they wanted to do better for their dogs, and we kind of came in at that time.
Yeah. So you partnered with the Jerky company, who's your manufacturer. Have you outgrown them yet?
We have not outgrown them, but we have added on to their facility. So we've had to buy additional ovens and different things, I'm learning all about, jerky production, and I'm learning a lot about, food side of food production and all these things that I never, and thought I would be involved in. And it's just super interesting. And it's also one of those things where we source a lot of our own ingredients. And so I'm constantly looking for different sources of high quality, different ingredients like fruits and vegetables and things like that. And so I've learned a lot there as well.
Yeah, there's so much to learn, and like your packaging as well. I'm sure. I mean, packaging is like a whole thing. It takes forever, and you sometimes customize as well.
So Mabel is my dog. As Michael jokes, really, we just made this company for Mabel, and we happen to share it with other dogs. So Mabel was my dog before Michael and I met, and now I guess she's our dog, even though she's technically my firstborn child, as you know. And so Mabel's on most of our boxes, but we do custom minis that have been a huge hit. With, I don't know if you can see the lights.
Yeah,
oh, there you go.
I can see it. I wish people could see. I mean, you guys can go online and see it, but it's like, I'm so excited to talk to you about this, because I'm like, how do you do that? Because that, like, the logistics that go into that must be crazy, right?
It's actually not as complicated. We work with a great printer right here in Ohio, and they've been really great about being able to print these custom mini cereal boxes. And we just get the picture and the photo. And I don't even know if you noticed this, but we put the Instagram handle of you and your dog on the bottom of the box for you, but also for us to be able to keep track of everything, because we have a lot of dogs with the same names, a lot of Bellas, and other, there's some common names where we need to be able to keep track of the dogs somehow. So it's actually, it was an idea that the cereal boxes kind of, we wanted to be playful and it's a throwback to, we were growing up and we loved cereal and, the mini cereal boxes. And so a little bit of nostalgia. And we picked the yellow color because, dogs mostly see in yellow and blue. And so those are kind of our main colors.
Oh, interesting. I didn't realize that. Like all dogs do? That's just, wow, that's so interesting. I love that. So they'll notice it and go and be like, feed me now.
Yes, our dogs, I think mostly it's the smell. I always like to make this comparison that, we see in color, we smell in black and white. We don't, our sense of smell is not that great. Whereas dogs, they really smell in color and see in black and white. They don't technically see in black and white, as I just said, they mostly see in blues and yellows, just to kind of understand it. So, when we go into the kitchen, we'll smell chocolate chip cookies baking. Whereas a dog will walk into the kitchen and they'll smell the flour, the sugar, the brown sugar, the chocolate chips. And so their sense of smell is just way more programmed. And so that was another reason, they love the jerky because it has that smell in addition to the taste that they love.
So interesting. So, okay. You came up with that packaging, which I think is so cute and has what are growing pains like? I'm just so curious because I think you guys have grown really quickly.
Yeah, I would think one of our biggest growing pains currently is, initially one of our biggest growing pains was that I was so particular about quality control that I wouldn't let us launch until it was perfect. And I think that definitely caused some tension because I think Michael, having a startup background, he just wanted to get to market. And he was like, we should, launch. And, there was just a couple tweaks in terms, nothing major, but, he wanted to get it out with the packaging not being exactly right. And I was like, no, we have to. And I definitely, for good or for bad, was very particular about, I wanted the stool quality just right. Everything had to be very particular. And also, we don't, most food companies, they make a batch, they test it, and then that's, that's it. But for us, and they'll do microbial testing, but they won't, necessarily do testing for nutrients on every batch. Whereas every batch we make, we do full nutrient panels to make sure that it's meeting our specs. And that's just me being a little bit crazy as a dog parent, but also a veterinarian. And so things like that definitely slow us down. So, we're always waiting to get results before we, release any of our food. So that's definitely been a little bit, we've had to kind of add that into our production timeline. And then, in terms of growing pains, we're kind of getting to the point of needing more capacity. And, we've been having issues with selling out and being able to stay in stock, which is a good problem. A lot of people would love that to be their problem. But then again, I would love to have a couple of weeks of inventory and not be so worried about selling out. But I guess, it's a good problem, as they say.
Yeah. It's a great problem. But then you're like, but there are dogs that want their food. Yeah. So it's like you're understanding that aspect.
Yeah. And then we always have to calculate, okay, so we have so many dogs on the food currently, how many new subscribers can we take until our next batch is produced, things like that. And, other growing pains, we work with the fulfillment center that has had some major COVID issues, and that's been, they've had a couple major COVID outbreaks. And so I've learned quite a bit about fulfillment, and we shipped out over 1,000 packages from our garage this summer.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. So I learned all about, shipping and, we had pallets showing up at our front door. I think our neighbors must have thought we were crazy. Well, they probably still do, but we had pallets of dog food showing up, and, we learned where the UPS hub was in Cleveland, and we'd be driving, thousands of packages in our cars, making trips to and from with all the food to get it to our customers, just because, there'd be delays of a couple weeks when they were turning over the warehouse due to the COVID outbreak. And we just didn't have that time. And so we had to take it into our own hands. So hopefully that won't happen again. And, we're diversifying our fulfillment stream so we can have a couple of different options so that doesn't happen again. But it's just unfortunately part of the, working through this time. Hopefully we'll be through it soon, but it's just kind of part of the COVID time.
I know we have products too. So that's been happening to us, and we're only one fulfillment facility. And so that's like a huge issue. And that's why, like you said, being in more than one is really important, because the only one that got hit for us for COVID is for the company. Who do you guys use for your 3PL?
For In terms of the one we were using or our new one?
Oh, you like switched over because you were like, this isn't going to work.
Yeah. So we started actually, another company that we just started working with, Ojai, does same day delivery in New York, LA, and Chicago.
Wow.
And so our customers have really liked that. And so we started using a lot of their same day delivery service, which is, it's a nice surprise and delight too, when you say, hey, I need dog food. And then 2 hours later, it shows up at your door.
That's amazing. That's
Yeah.
really nice.
Although with COVID, a lot of our customers are moving out of those areas. So we just have to kind of balance it all.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I want to go back really quick because you said something about waiting until your stool analysis was like exactly where you wanted it to be, and that's amazing. So I want to just kind of hear more about that.
Yeah, so we talk a lot about poop. Well, as you know, between having a toddler and starting a dog food company, we talk a lot about poop in this house. But so stool quality is something that is, in a weird way, it's something that is uncomfortable to talk about, but it's something that's really important to me as a vet, first of all, because I want the animals to have good stool quality in terms of their health, but it's also a way that, we interact with our dogs every day. We are picking up their poop, and we want it to, be firm and easy to pick up, but, not be too soft, not be too firm. And our food is highly digestible. So one thing that a lot of owners note is that they will have much less poop, which is nice. It's a nice side effect. Just because so much of the food is digested, they produce a lot less fecal material.
So interesting.
And then also, we want to have a firm stool that's, as I said, kind of like the right stool quality. And so we do basically test to find out, exactly, and there's scientific kind of methods to verify, what stool quality you're getting. And so we kind of really tweaked with our diets to make sure we were getting optimal stool quality. As I said, it's important for the pets and also for the pet parents.
Yeah, no, that's great because just like humans, like you said, you can tell so much about your health through, how your stool is even coming out, not just like, testing it, but like, what does it look like? And so I think that's really great that you waited until, so you would like put dogs on it, and like, how many dogs did you like test this on?
Well, we worked with a actual, company that does scientific research. And, we did, studies there, but we also had studies, we honestly did a lot of anecdotal studies as well. We have, I don't know if Michael will be mad that I share this, but his parents have 6 dogs.
Oh my
So
God.
I know, right? I'm calling them out here. But so his parents have 6 dogs, and then we have 2 dogs. So between us, we had almost basically like a bunch of test subjects, and so all of our dogs would eat it. And for good or for bad, one of our dogs, I don't know, she's in here though, she's under my desk. She has a really sensitive stomach, so as soon as her stools would get a little bit soft, we'd say, there's something wrong with this formula. We did a lot of kind of unofficial testing with our own dogs and our family's dogs. But then also we did do official stool quality trials with, an actual lab.
So like, how many different kinds of dog food do you have that you offer right now? You have one, or
currently we just offer the beef food. It took us a while to get to where we wanted, just because it was so hard to formulate a food without any added vitamins and minerals to get good stool quality. These are all things that were definitely took a long time. And I'm not upset it took a long time, because I wanted to do it right. I wasn't just going to launch a food. I wanted to launch what I felt good about feeding, my own dogs and everyone else's. And we are very shortly going to be launching a chicken recipe.
Oh, cool.
And then, I hope long term to add a couple different protein sources. But overall, we are not going to have, an insane number of foods, just because the amount of time and effort it takes to formulate and produce just, a couple types. We're not a huge company, we can only do so much, but we want to do it right.
That makes sense. And I feel like you hit all your spots with that too, with like beef, chicken, or I don't know what you'll do next, if you'll like do fish, or people don't do that, do they? I guess they do. Yeah.
Yeah, we've considered doing a salmon food. One thing is a lot of the fish foods have a very strong smell. And
Yeah.
so that's one thing that I think a lot of people don't like. I personally don't like a super strong fishy smell. We actually tried over 50 different dog foods after we went on this adventure looking for the best dog food. And so our dogs tried everything.
Oh
We
my
tried everything. So it was interesting to kind of see all the different form factors and to the different smells and the different preparation. We tried it all. The only thing I didn't try raw, just because, as I said, I just didn't think it was worth the risk.
Yeah. And I mean, it's completely different than what you're doing, but I'm sure a lot of people are switching because, again, like it's like pure. It's like the whole concept of like having pure, great quality food, but then in an easier way as well. That's
Yeah.
safer.
Well, let's be honest. I mean, how often do we order DoorDash? I would love to say that I cook a gourmet meal for my family every night, but let me tell you, I'm very often sending my husband a link to like share a menu on DoorDash. So, so yes. So as I said, I wish I was the kind of person that cooked a gourmet meal for our dogs, let alone ourselves every night. But, we're human and, this is what, we wanted something that was as easy as kibble, but also, better.
What's it like working with your husband?
It's interesting. I mean, it's great in some respects. In other respects, it's very challenging. I think we've set some ground rules that have very much helped. Like we don't text about Sundays. We keep that all in Slack. And so, if he's texting me about something, I know that it's either related to the kids or something completely unrelated or sharing some news story, whatnot. Whereas we keep everything in Slack, it's kind of funny, but I also really like it. I think the separation is really important. So we really kind of set ground rules for that. So we will have Slack conversations about Sundays, and then we'll, have our, iMessage conversations about everything else that we talk about. It also is hard to sometimes leave it in the office, quote unquote, because sometimes before bed, I'll say like, oh, what if we did like this to the formulation? Like, have we considered adding carrots? And he'll be like, okay, Tori, I'm trying to go to sleep. Like, what So, I definitely think we sometimes struggle. And I think we do need to call each other out on, separating work and home life. And it's even harder with COVID because everything is here. We were actually in the midst of signing a commercial lease in February, March. Thank goodness we didn't do that in order to give ourselves a little bit more separation between home and work life. But, obviously none of us have that now. And so it's definitely even more important for us to be cognizant of the fact that, we live together, we work together, and to really keep that space separate. And so, I definitely think that it's something that we just have to keep each other in check on too. We'll always be reminding, each other like, hey, like, we're out for a walk with the family. Let's not, talk about it right now, or things like that. So it's good in that respect. And it's, it has its challenges, but overall I really enjoy it. And I think that it's fun to see him so motivated and passionate about something that I'm so motivated and passionate about. And to have that together is really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it's such a dream to be able to do that for so many people. But I've had that experience where my husband and I work together, and I was like, I can't do this. Like, I literally can't. And I mean, we've been together since high school. We're high school sweethearts. I love him. I think I'm like way too, and I'm just so intense. And like, he's very much the opposite, that like, it just didn't work for us. But so I love asking couples that question because I understand both sides. Like, I know people that just do it so well. And I know people that are like, yeah, no, it's not going to work for us. But it's so nice when you figure out like what works, like we didn't have to in our situation. So we just were like, let's just not. But it's interesting.
Yeah. And it's other little things too. And, for example, I like getting up early, and I will often do a little bit of work before like everyone wakes up. Like I love the, hour or two before everyone wakes up in the house. Yeah. And I just feel like it's like my, quiet, like secret time. Like I go downstairs, I drink coffee, no one's awake. It's amazing. And so I really like that time. Whereas Michael's definitely a night owl, and he will stay up late, especially if he wants to code. He needs uninterrupted time when he's building the website, or, last night he stayed up really late, transitioning all of our API to our new 3PL and, those type of things. And so he likes to work really late. I like to work early, which honestly is nice because we do get our chunks of kind of our own time to do things.
That's so great. So he like codes it and you make the product like what it is. That's amazing. I love that. What a fun thing to share with your kids too as they get older.
No, it is very fun. And our daughter, she's always walking around talking about, Sundays and dog food and,
Oh.
and I don't know if you see this, the little stickers come with the
Yeah, we love them.
yeah, so those stickers are all over everything because whenever we're fulfilling packages here, she always grabs sheets of stickers, so it's all over our house.
It's like perfect. I do the same thing with my son, and he loved the sticker so much when it came out or when it got shipped to us, because literally like he'll put it all over his kitchen, like, and I'm like, okay, like literally I get 2 minutes of him being, satisfied, and I get to just focus on something. It's so great that you guys do that.
How old is he?
He's 2.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an interesting age, but it's perfect.
Yeah. It's fun. And the things that come out of their mouths. Yeah, Abigail's almost 2.5, and it's hysterical when they start and expressing themselves. It's fun.
I know. Well, thank you so much for joining me and sharing more about Sundays. I love it. I love meeting you. I really appreciate your attention to like quality and really caring about what you're bringing out into the world. And I'm just so excited to have found it.
Well, thank you. Yeah, as I said, at the end of the day, we just wanted to make something great for our own pets, and it's so exciting that it's turned into this so that we can share it with dogs around the country and world.